Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be celebrating 2024 by putting together my 12 best and favorite builds in Elden Ring throughout the year 2024. Of course, we had DLC released this year, so there's going to be some DLC weapons, some base game weapons, and a lot of fun to be had, and a lot of damage too. These are great damage builds. These are awesome builds. And at the end of this video, I'm going to do something a little bit different towards the end of this video. So definitely hang around for that if you're a fan of my channel and you ever commented on my channel. We are going to go over classic weapons, DLC weapons, all the good stuff, all my favorites in Elden Ring throughout 2024. And of course, with the release of Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, it only made the game better. There's so much to work with here. This is my top 12 builds of 2024. At number 12, we have the Anvil Hammer, a strength and faith weapon that was added in Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. It's absolutely ridiculous in the amount of damage it does, and of course, the versatile type of strength and faith is amazing too. I absolutely recommend picking up this weapon, and it's really no question as to why it made one of my favorites on this list, because I love strength and faith builds, and this weapon takes advantage of both those stats. The fire part is going to scale with faith to a better degree than the stats would tell you, and then of course the physical part is going to be strength. You can get a ton of poise damage with this weapon as well, including its Ash of War smithing art spears, but also with basic charge and jump attacks. It really takes advantage of the whole big bonk stick weapon thing, and of course the addition of faith, you could throw in a whole bunch of different buffs too without having to really change much to your stats. This truly is a phenomenal weapon, and one I absolutely recommend trying out. For this, we have the Anvil Hammer, preferably plus 10. We have the Erdtree Seal. We had the Black Knight set on, part of the Oathkeeper set as well. Two-handed Sword Talisman, Fire Scorpion Charm, Shard of Alexander, Axe Talisman, Flame Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 33 Endurance. We have 40 Strength. That's going to be 60 when you two-hand this with the 1.5 times bonus, 15 Dexterity, 11 Intelligence, 50 Faith with the Faith tier, and then we're using Golden Vow and Hellish Shabriri to buff this build. And next up at number 11, we have Bloodblade. Bloodblade is one of my two favorite regular Ashes of War in Elden Ring. I really enjoy this because it's a lot of fun to use. You get an insane amount of bleed buildup. And of course, adding this onto the backhand blades, which were a great addition in the DLC, makes it even more powerful. These weapons are really quick too. And of course, you have the ability to get in a lot of hits fast because they have that automatic kind of dual move set. And with Bloodblade, yeah, it just makes it even better. Love this Ash of War. Love these weapons. These are definitely ones to try out too if you have Shadow of the Erdtree. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for a powerful Bloodblade build. And for equipment, we have the Blood Backhand Blades, plus 25 preferably with Bloodblade, Dragon Communion Seal, part of the Rakshasa set, Armor of Solitude chest piece, White Mass, Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Melissan's Prosthesis, Winged Sword Insignia or Rotten Winged Sword Insignia. You have it, it's better. Authority tier, Faith tier, and then we're using Moog Shackle there to stun the boss. Let's talk about stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 18 Mind, 30 Endurance, 12 Strength, 45 Dexterity, and 45 Arcane for that Arcane Soft Cap, 25 Faith with the Faith tier. We hit 72 Poise here, and we're using Golden Bow and Flame Grip Me Strength. And next up here at number 10, we have the Cold Warped Axe build. Up until a couple of weeks ago, I had never done a build for the Warped Axe, and I ended up loving this weapon. It has amazing strength scaling, it's excellent in cold affinity, goes really well with Royal Knight's Resolve, and its charged attacks do great poise damage too. As you go on to take on Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree's many tough bosses, I highly recommend checking out the Warped Axe. In several different affinities, you'll get an A in strength scaling, including cold and blood, and then of course you get S scaling if you go for heavy affinity. This truly is a very broken weapon for the weight, and it can be excellent in a number of circumstances and a number of battles in the game. I definitely recommend checking out the Warped Axe for sure, and there's no question as to why this made it on my list. This turned out to be one of those weapons that I missed that was absolutely amazing. I also want to mention real quick, of course this video is accumulation of pretty much everything I've done throughout the year, and I recommend these 12 builds pretty much over everything. That is why I put them here, not just for damage, but because I had the most fun with them overall. But if you have any comments on any future builds you'd like to see, of course, be sure to comment those as well, and your thoughts on this video. For New Year's Day, I'm going to be doing another list of build requests, so I'm looking forward to that as well. That should be the video after this one. I just wanted to do a summary video for the year of 2024, kind of look back and do something kind of cool at the end of this video. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for this awesome Warped Axe build. And we have the Cold Warped Axe with Royal Knight's Resolve. We have any seal for buffs. We're using the Rakshasa set, which is great for a lot of builds, 8% more damage in total. We have the Axe Talisman, Dagger Talisman. Then we have the Blade of Mercy Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Spike Crack Tier, and the Blood Sucking Crack Tier for this one as well for a lot of damage. Let's talk about stats. And our stats are 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 26 Endurance. We have 54 Strength, that's over 80 when you two-hand this, 15 Dexterity, 20 Intelligence, 25 Faith. We have Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Blessing's Boon. And next up, we have another absolute favorite. At number 9, we have Spinning Strikes. One of the most fun builds in the entire game is Spinning Strikes with the Grave Scythe because it builds up so much damage and so much bleed, and the physical damage is great too. Spinning Weapon is also fun, and I typically would have tied it with this, but I actually like Spinning Strikes more because it tends to do more physical damage. We have the Heavy Grave Scythe, plus 25 preferably. We have the Dragon Communion Seal. We have the Rakshasa set on and the White Mask. Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Millicent's Prosthesis, Thorny Tier, and Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 23 Mind, 30 Endurance, we have 70 Strength, 18 Dexterity, we have 25 Faith with the Faith Tier, and then of course for our buffs, we're going to be using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and then you're going to want Blood Flame Blade, which is going to give you, I think, over 90 bleed in total, and we hit over 51 poise for this build too. And next one up at number 8, we have Milady Storm Build. And this is an amazing build for Stormblade. I love the amount of damage you can get with Stormblade on Milady. It's really quick too. It's not going to be absurd in terms of the damage, but it can absolutely chew through the majority of bosses' HP. And it's probably one of the most convenient Ashes of War in the entire game. There's another one on this list that I would say that about that I'll go over in a little bit. But yeah, Stormblade, very convenient Ash of War, and goes really well with Milady. Let's jump into stats and equipment for this one. And of course, for this build, we have Milady plus 25 in Quality Affinity. We have any seal for buffs. You can check out the armor set there. The Rakshasa set would improve upon this. Enraged Divine Beast Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Ritual Sword Talisman, Millicent's Prosthesis for any regular hits. Then we have the Greenburst Crystal Tier, Faith Tier. Let's talk about stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 23 Mind, 28 Endurance, we have 40 Strength, we have 50 Dexterity. Keep in mind, if you two-hand it, you'll have 60 Strength. We have 15 Faith, that's going to be 25 Faith. With the Faith Tier, your levels will add up to 160. We're using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and we hit 51 poise. And next up here, we have my favorite bleed build at number 7. If you're between 125 and 150, my favorite bleed build in the entire game in terms of damage and also being able to shred bosses is 2 Scavenger Curved Swords. They're absolutely amazing together. They do a ton of physical damage, a good amount of bleed buildup, and you only have to invest in 1 damage stat, just Arcane on Occult because they have an 8 bleed on them, and they can absolutely destroy a ton of the bosses in the game. This clip, by the way, was from New Game Plus 7, and this was against Midra, of course, and Midra has around 70,000 HP on New Game Plus 7. It's actually absurd, but anyways, I think it was like 6 jumps in total, almost 70,000 damage. Yeah, the Scavenger Curved Swords are absolutely amazing. If you're looking for a bleed jump attack build and you're between 125 and 150, there's none I can recommend better than the Scavenger Curved Swords. Let's jump into equipment. We have 2 Scavenger Curved Swords with Seppuku on Occult. You can use the Dragon Communion Seal here, it would be best. We have the White Mask, Raptor's Black Feathers, or the Grave Bird chest piece, part of Rakshasa set, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Millicent's Prosthesis. We have the Claw Talisman, Thorny Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for our stats, we have 60 Vigor, 15 Mind. You don't need a lot of Mind for this build. 27 Endurance, 16 Strength, 19 Dexterity, 75 Arcane, 25 Faith with the Faith Tier. And then for our buffs, we're going to use Golden Vow, Blessing's Boon, Flame Grant Me Strength, and we can hit 51 poise with this Endurance. And next up, of course, at number 6, we have Moonveil Revamped. Moonveil wasn't on my list of favorite weapons. However, when they added Rolana's cameo, I thought it was really fun for the Sword of Night and Flame in Moonveil because there is now a payoff for being able to hold the Ash of War and essentially time it better, which can take skill, and it's honestly a lot more fun to use now. I really enjoy Moonveil, and it does a lot of damage too. Let's jump into equipment. And for equipment, we have Moonveil plus 10. We have any seal for buffs. We have the Rakshasa set on, Melissan's Prosthesis, Shard of Alexander. We have the Magic Scorpion Charm. Of course, we have Rolana's cameo for the extra damage boost. Magic tier, Faith tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 25 Endurance, 12 Strength, 45 Dexterity. We have 40 Intelligence. We have 33 Faith with the Faith tier. And then we have Golden Vow, Hellish Abriri for our buffs. And we hit 58 poise for this build. And at number 5, we have Brutal Guts Fire build. And that is going to be Flame Spear with Guts Greatsword in Flame Art Affinity. This really is an amazing build, honestly, because Guts Greatsword has amazing AR to begin with, and then you can charge this Ash of War for even more damage, get a good amount of poise damage and posture breaks too, and pretty much beat up bosses using a build like this one. I actually forgot, for this clip we did Fire Affinity. I recommend Flame Art though, I think, over Fire Affinity and running it as a Faith build because you have a lot more versatility as a Faith build. I don't really care for the Faith scaling on Guts Greatsword, but it has high base damage. For this we did Fire Affinity though. Still a great build, a lot of fire damage, and of course you're going to be running a powerful strength build. Let's jump into equipment. And we have Fire Guts Greatsword with Flame Spear plus 25. We're using the Giant Seal. We have the Rakshasa set on. We have the Shard of Alexander, two-handed sword talisman, Fire Scorpion Charm. We have the Godfrey icon because this Ash of War is chargeable. Flame tier, Spike Crack tier for our charged hits. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 35 Endurance. We have 54 Strength. That's going to be over 80 when you two-hand this. 15 Dexterity, 25 Faith. And then we are using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. And of course we hit 58 poise again. That's going to be the same for all of the Rakshasa set builds. And of course we have a tie at number 5. The other one is going to be Savage Lion's Claw with Guts Greatsword. It is absolutely a blast to use this Ash of War if you're able to get 2 hits in with it. It does a ton of damage. You see 10,000 damage there on the full Ash of War. And of course you can use this in Heavy Affinity. You can use this in Fire and Flame Art Affinity. Either way, it ends up being an amazing build as well, an awesome build to try. Savage Lion's Claw is an absolute blast that can do punishing amount of damage. And of course, if you use Freya's Greatsword in the offhand, it's going to be a little difficult to hit 51 poise that way, but you get the boost to Savage Lion's Claw and regular Lion's Claw by having an offhand Freya's Greatsword because she has a passive boost on that sword for all red main Ashes of War. This is definitely one I recommend trying out, no question. Savage Lion's Claw is so much fun to use. Really cool Ash of War they added in the DLC. Definitely something to pick up in Shadow of the Erdtree and try out. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for a powerful Guts Greatsword Savage Lion's Claw build. And we have Cold Guts Greatsword plus 25 with Savage Lion's Claw. We're using Freya's Greatsword. We have any seal for buffs, part of the Rakshasa set on, a random armor set on. It's hard to fit 51 poise here. Shard of Alexander, Ritual Sword Talisman, two-handed Sword Talisman, Arsenal Charm plus 1 or Great Jar's Arsenal, Strength tier, Faith tier. Let's jump into stats. By the way, I recommend, because you don't need to put much into intelligence, switching between cold when you have a boss that you could do some frost damage on, and heavy affinity for a setup like this one. 60 vigor, 66 strength, 99 when you two-hand this. We have 35 endurance. We're using Golden Vow and Flame Burnt Strength. And next up here at number 4, of course, a lightning build was going to make it in. We have a all lightning build. In this case, we're going to be using Knight's Lightning Spear and Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. I love combining these two. Knight's Lightning Spear was a great addition for Dragon Cult incantations because it does a ton of damage. And then for bigger bosses and bigger targets, Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, of course, is absolutely ridiculous in the amount of damage you can get from that incantation. It's always been great. They're perfect to combo together, and of course you could use the Priestess Heart as well to increase your damage, but keep in mind, when you combine the Priestess Heart with using Hellish Abriri for the damage boost, you're pretty much like one hit at 60 vigor, so always keep that in mind. It's a little dangerous to use it. We have the Gravelstone Seal plus 25, we have the Jellyfish Shield, we have the Rakshasa set on, we have the Godfrey icon, Lightning Scorpion Charm, we have the Ritual Swords Talisman, Blocks Canvas Talisman, then we have the Lightning tier, Faith tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 25 Endurance, 20 Strength. We have 80 Faith. Of course, we've got a lot of Faith for this build. We're using Golden Vow, Hellish Rebury, Knight's Lightning Spear, and Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. And next up at number 3, we have the buffed up Blasphemous Blade build. This is a build I did about a month ago, and it turned out to be a phenomenal build. Of course, getting 11,000 damage per Ash of War and healing in the process goes amazing with the blood-sucking cracked here. They're like perfect together because you're always healing back any HP that you use. And of course, the Blasphemous Blade is one of the most ridiculous and powerful weapons in the game. Now, I know there's going to be somebody that comments and says, why is the Blasphemous Blade not number 1? It's the most powerful weapon in the entire game. Well, keep in mind, these are all pretty powerful builds, but I rank these in terms of my favorites, and it's not my favorite weapon or Ash of War in the game. It does make my top 3. I love the convenience of it, and I love the fact that you could build around Faith and throw in incantations as well, but it is not my favorite build overall. I do recommend the Blasphemous Blade build, though, for anyone that is struggling for sure, because it's incredibly helpful. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Blasphemous Blade plus 10. We have the Erdtree Seal plus 10. Rakshasa set. First talisman slot, totally optional. I just needed it in this video for the stats. I think I needed 15 dexterity. Talisman of the Dread you need. Shard of Alexander, of course. Fire Scorpion Charm. Flame tier, and the Blood-Sucking Crack tier. Let's jump into stats. And we have 50 Vigor, 21 Mind, 26 Endurance, we have 20 Strength, 19 Dexterity, we have 80 Faith. We are using Golden Vow, Hellish Rebury, Blessings of the Erdtree to help with the Blood-Sucking Crack tier. The Blasphemous Blade helps too. And then you could throw in any incantations you like as well. And at number 2, we have the Extreme Ice Spear build. This does a lot of damage with Ice Spear, builds around low health proccing a little bit, and of course uses my favorite Ash of War, regular Ash of War in the entire game in Ice Spear. By the way, if you're new to Elden Ring and you're checking out this video, I'm going to attach my most recent early game guide for Ice Spear, and honestly, I think that's my best early game guide to date. It's basically completely uncut, easy to follow, and gives you a lot of damage in the early game. Ice Spear does around 25 poise damage per hit, which is incredible. And on top of the 25 poise damage per hit, you're getting frost buildup. You're also doing magic damage, which is really easy to boost, as you can tell with Terra Magica, the magic tier, magic scorpion charm, etc. It's going to be one of those builds that can carry you through pretty much the entire game, with the exception of like Rolana. There's really not a lot of the bosses in the game that are going to give you a difficult time. Magic damage is pretty great, and Ice Spear is amazing. Let's jump into equipment. And we have the Clayman's Magic Harpoon plus 25. This is a magic build for this. Any sword to bring your HP down with Seppuku, any staff, any seal. We have the Rakshasa set on. This adds dexterity. It has dexterity and magic scaling. Shard of Alexander, Red Feathered Branch Sword Talisman. We have the Magic Scorpion Charm, and then we have the Magic tier and Blood-Sucking Crack tier. Let's jump into stats. I know someone will correct me here, so it has intelligence and dexterity scaling. If you have the Guardian Sword Spear, that's my favorite weapon to run in keen affinity for Ice Spear. We have 50 Vigor, 60 Intelligence, 20 Dexterity, 33 Faith with the Faith tier, Golden Vow, Hellish Rebury, Blessings Boon, and Terra Magica. And next up at number 1, we have my new favorite weapon in the entire game, and that's the Euporia. The Euporia is the most fun weapon in the game, in my opinion, especially since the Ash of War works in a really unique way. You're going to see comments come up throughout this clip and the next clip. They're my favorite comments, or some of my favorite comments that I saved. You may be shout out in this video, so pay attention to some of those, and we're going to talk about the Euporia now. So as you build up on successive hits, you do a ton of damage with. You can actually do a ton of damage with the charge attacks too, so you have 2 ways to build around it. But as long as you're hitting consistently, you're going to build up around the beam on the Ash of War, which has 2 different beams. A shorter beam that only takes a couple of hits, and then the longer beam, which takes like, I don't know, between 7 and 10 hits. When you get the longer beam, it does a ton of damage. The payoff is excellent, and Euporia is honestly a blast to use, and a little bit challenging too, because it takes effort to get in those hits, to build up that beam, and to time everything right. I honestly love the Euporia. I think it was one of those weapons that they put in the game, especially after they buffed it, with the intention of making you put the effort in to work around its Ash of War. Some people don't really like that. They want to be able to just hit the Ash of War button. It's not the case with Euporia. You're going to have to get in hits. You're going to have to play aggressively. And then as you build up that beam, you can get a ton of damage and a lot of holy power, which is really great for DLC, especially because there's a lot of bosses that are weak to holy damage. These were just some of my favorite comments from people. There's a lot more. I could probably do a future video where I add on to it, of course. There's so many nice comments from you guys. I want to thank everybody that supported this channel to this time. It's been an amazing feeling being able to make these builds, being able to play my favorite game. And honestly, thank YouTube. Thank everybody that supported this channel. I remember when I first had my 10 subs and then 100 subs, and it was a really tough grind. I honestly didn't know if I was going to be able to stick it out and push through it. It took me probably about 6 or 7 months to get my first 1,000 subs. And then after that, it kind of just flew. And this was all because of this amazing community. The Souls community truly is an awesome community. Much love to everybody that supported this channel. Let's jump into equipment. And we have Euporia plus 10, any seal for buffs. I wasn't really using much armor for this build apparently, but the Rakshasa set will increase the damage on this build, of course. Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, Sacred Scorpion Charm, Melissan's Prosthesis, Shard of Alexander, and then we have the Holy Tier and Thorny Tier. If you don't need defense, you could ditch the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman. I had it on because I had a light equipment load, which helps with New Game plus 7. This clip was on. You're able to dodge each year. 60 Vigor, 70 Faith, 20 Endurance, 21 Mind. For our buffs, we are using Golden Vow. We have Blessings of the Erdtree, and then Black Flames Protection too. And we're now at the end of 2024. 2025 is upcoming soon, and we have Elden Ring Night Rain coming out this upcoming year. I can't wait for it. I'm going to be covering that game, of course. On Wednesday, New Year's Day, there should be another video coming out for more build requests. Thank you to my mods on Discord. They came up on screen there. You guys are amazing. Be sure to sub if you want to see more Elden Ring content and Elden Ring Night Rain coverage when it comes out. Don't forget to join the Discord too. It's an awesome community, and I will catch you guys in 2025.